It is undeniable that even though Russia inherited most of the Soviet Union's legacy, the reorganized country experienced the most depressing decade economically after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Factors such as the global financial crisis, plummeting oil prices, and Western sanctions have all become shackles that once hampered the development of Russia. Currently, the Russia-Ukraine conflict has lasted for more than a year, and with most European companies considering withdrawing from the Russian market as the politically correct first move, the Russian car market has become a forgotten player in the world. However, except for China. According to data from the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, China's automobile exports grew by 54.4% in 2022, reaching 3.111 million units, including 2.529 million passenger cars, 0.582 million commercial vehicles, and 0.679 million new energy vehicles. Perhaps in the process of accelerating the transformation to electrification, Chinese automakers that are at the forefront have some first-mover advantages and a certain amount of luck mixed in the reality of the significant increase in export volume. However, no matter how the outside world evaluates this report card, when all automakers backed by Western countries actively sell their Russian assets or unconditionally choose to withdraw from the market in this year, whether it is said that Chinese automakers take advantage of the opportunity to enter the Russian market or rely on real skills to win this market, at least from the perspective of results, the Chinese power has entered Moscow, which is already an established fact. Just like at the beginning of the year, as shown in the report of the Federal Customs Service of the Russian Federation, China ranked first in the list of new car sources imported to Russia in 2022. And the import volume increased by 40% during the year, exceeding 117,000 vehicles. Earlier last month, Russian analytical agency Autostat also counted that the market share of Chinese car brands in Russia increased from 9% to 37% last year. At the same time, the market share of Korean cars dropped from 28.3% to 11.2%. And the share of European and Japanese brands all fell below 10%, while American cars were less than 1%. All relevant data will only prove this again. It is said that the trend of the Russian car market will ultimately fluctuate with the relationship between China and Russia. At this moment, we still cannot deny such a prospective scenario. Now, when the data from Autostat and consulting firm PPK tells us again that Chinese brand new car sales currently account for nearly 40% of Russian brand new car sales in the first 2 months of the year, in addition to the surge in market share, the price of Chinese brand cars has also increased by 53% to 73%. I believe that Chinese cars will surely create a historic moment in Russia in 2023. In other words, more and more Russians will replace their cars with Chinese brands. So, when other brands have left Russia, why did only Chinese cars choose to stay? Is the huge increase in sales in Russia at this time a good thing for Chinese cars? In other words, is the Russian auto market still worth exploring? Which Chinese car brand does Russia like the most? Hi! Welcome to Auto Age. Before we started today's video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Okay, let's get started. First of all, it is clear that Russia has a vast territory and sparse population, and its economic development is uneven, resulting in limited domestic purchasing power. Last year, Russia sold 1.67 million vehicles, ranking 8th in the world. By the way, Brazil and South Korea have higher sales than Russia. In addition, there are only a handful of local Russian car brands. Since the second half of 2002, the Russian automobile industry has entered the cold winter. Many large automobile manufacturers have encountered technical problems in the production process, and they had to stop production. Due to historical reasons, Russia's industrial development is mainly focused on heavy industry and military industry. Therefore, Auto. As a civilian industry, Russia is very weak in terms of technical strength and the breadth of the industrial chain. After the introduction of foreign auto brands, it has caused a huge impact on local brands. Affected by the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, supply chain problems have become increasingly serious, which is also directly reflected in their car sales. According to data, in July 2022, sales of passenger cars and light commercial vehicles in Russia fell by an astonishing 74.9% year-on-year, a decrease of 94,819 compared with July last year. Since February last year, Volkswagen, Honda, Ford, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, GM, Volvo, Jaguar Land Rover have announced the suspension of car exports and sales to Russia, and many of them have also stopped production in local Russian factories. Unable to retain foreign car companies, and the strength of Russia's own car brands is not strong, leading to the decline of the Russian car market. At this time, there is a voice in Russia: if the Westerners leave the car factories built in Russia, whether the Chinese may be the biggest beneficiaries. After all, under such circumstances, Chinese brands seem to be the only option for Russia. In fact, Chinese car companies have already laid out their own industries in the Russian market. As early as June 2019, Great Wall Motors invested $500 million in Tula, Russia, and it took 5 years to build a world-class factory. In addition, Chery is also negotiating with Russian manufacturers to produce cars in Russian factories, and plans to realize localized production in Russia. Looking at the popular models sold in Russia, like many other underdeveloped countries, its low-end models account for a considerable proportion. And Chinese car companies are best at starting from these regions. So, is the huge increase in sales in Russia at this time a good thing for Chinese cars? In my opinion, due to Russia being sanctioned by European and American countries, some car companies operating in Russia were forced to close their production lines in Russia, which further exacerbated the shortage of cars in the Russian market. As a rigid demand for cars, the growth of Chinese car sales in Russia will continue for a long time. In addition, the total production capacity of Russian auto factories exceeds 2 million vehicles. This year, it was originally planned to produce about 1.5 million vehicles. However, due to the shortage of parts and sanctions from Europe and the United States, it is expected that Russia will lose 760,000 to 815,000 vehicles this year, and the loss is irretrievable. At present, the downturn in the Russian auto market will continue for a long time, and there is even a tendency to continue to deteriorate. From this perspective, the penetration of Chinese brands into Russia will not bring real economic benefits, but entering Russia can bring more valuable overseas operation experience to Chinese companies. Compared with the unattainable Western European countries, Russia has given Chinese companies an excellent opportunity to practice. The Russian auto crisis also reminds all countries that only by working hard to develop their own auto industry can they avoid being sanctioned in the complex and changeable international environment. In summary, as we enter the year 2023, from Great Wall to Chery and many other Chinese car companies that are eager to try, are taking the opportunity to expand their overseas strategy by tapping into the Russian market. It should be clear to anyone that even in an era where Chinese car companies are aggressively pushing out foreign investment, the conclusion that Chinese car companies have conquered Russia seems to be somewhat nationalistic. However, data does not lie. From the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers to various analysis agencies in Russia, the information they convey to the outside world is truly exciting. Okay, that's all for today. Please put your comments below, and share your insightful ideas with other people. Do you want to learn about more auto stories? Please keep following our channel and like our videos. Thank you so much for your continuous support. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.